Grace and peace. This week we're on the topic of how you see it. So we're introducing you to different kinds of theology, different theologians, and those voices that provide a slightly different perspective from that mainline Protestant theology. And that doesn't mean that the theology we have is incorrect. Theology is just it's the study of God, right? And so there are different voices, different ways to study God, and different lenses through which we see God and the holy, the divine. And each one of us bring a different way to see God, a different lens. So I will have my perspective, my way of seeing God, and a theologian brings his or her lens, his or her perspective. For a very long time, there was what we would call a dominant lens. And over the past, certainly within the past 50 years, but arguably the past 100 to 150 years, there have been encouraging nudges that there are other ways to see God. And we're naming some of those. So today, my theological perspective that I bring to you, it's called queer theory and then queer theology. It's not a name that I would choose, but I don't get to do the choosing. It's brought because we often will choose a name that has been used as an abusive name, and if you claim it as a name, then it is no longer abusive, right? It is that power. So under queer theory is queer theology. And that theology is a lens that is used, right? And it is done for or by LGBTQIA individuals. It focuses on that perspective need. It's purposefully opposing social and cultural norms regarding gender or sexuality, which would make sense. But it's here to unearth hidden voices or perspective that will just bring scriptures to light in a new way, and it'll challenge or deconstruct boundaries in respect to certain scriptures, and especially as you would see them with gender identity. So this theologian in particular, Richard Cleaver, and not as in Leave It to Beaver, Richard Cleaver, but a theologian. So his book, Gay Liberation Theology from the 1990s. So now that we have remembered the drama of the people of Israel coming out of Egypt, the phrase coming out means something new. In the Exodus, as in our lives, it means moving out of a situation of bondage. The bonds, in our case, being secrecy and silence, into freedom. Israel had to come physically out of Egypt in order to worship God, not the idols of Egypt, and also had to come out of the way of thinking that makes it possible for slaves to remain slaves, the habits that make idols seem like gods. Queer theory, queer theology, is not insisting that the Bible means one thing. It's opening a perspective for a group of people who had been made to feel outside and made to feel the other, and wounded by the words of God that in fact had and have included them, included us. And it opens these words of love and light and liberation, and says to folks who had felt on the outside, you are on the inside. You are loved. You are wanted. You are welcomed. You are a beloved child of God, now, always, and forever, and you have never been anything other. And that's true for all of us. Amen.